Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed candidates and engaged voters, welcome to the first Greater Bangor Association of Realtors Candidates Forum for Bangor City Council. I want to begin by expressing our sincere gratitude for your participation in this important event. My name is Karina Quirk, and I am honored to serve as the moderator for this forum. My role is to ensure that this discussion remains fair, respectful, and focused on the critical issues that matter to voters. Our goal is to facilitate a constructive dialogue that will help you, the voters, make informed decisions. This forum is being recorded for those unable to attend. But first, let's take a moment to send love to our brothers and sisters in Lewiston and surrounding areas that were affected by the recent horrific events, as we will forever remember and honor the lives that were tragically lost. Maine is not only one big town, Maine is one big family. You will all remain in our hearts and prayers. Candidates, you will be allotted 2 minutes for an opening statement, 2 minutes for a closing statement, 2 minutes for each question. To try to maintain a smooth process, we will sound a tone when you have 10 seconds remaining, which will allow you to finish your thoughts before we nicely mute your mic. The association members were asked to send in questions in advance. We gave the candidates 2 questions last evening in advance as well. We will start in alphabetical order by last name, then it'll be alphabetical order by first name, and then pre-drawn order thereafter. Let's begin. This will be the same question for all candidates. What would you do differently, if anything, to address the housing crisis, including homelessness, than the approach the current council and administration have taken? Michael Beck.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to participate. I am Michael Beck, and I'm the owner of Bangor Solutions. Been a resident of Bangor for nearly 9 years. We have 3 small children here in the Bangor School District. So the question you asked is about what will we do differently? And there's a lot. Part of that ship has sailed, especially with the ARPA funds. I have somebody who has spoken up frequently about how they should be spending the ARPA funds, and especially in regards to affordable housing. The U.S. Treasury had put out a how-to guide about how to use that money for affordable housing, which I brought to the council, and unfortunately, we didn't make use of it. So going forward, it's going to take someone who's watching the till, someone who's watching the rudder, and making sure that we're going after funds being made at the state level. The governor's including $100 million for affordable housing in her budget. There's a bill that's going to be picked up again by the next session of the legislature, LD 226, something I testified in favor for, something that I encouraged the city and got them to testify in favor for, something that Andrew Cashman of the Maine Association of Realtors testified in favor for. And that's going to make $80 million available for more affordable housing over the next 2 years. And we need someone who's going to be pushing to bring as many of those dollars back to Bangor as possible. I hear from a lot of voters who don't want to see their own personal property taxes go up. They're on fixed incomes, and we're giving all we can. So if the state and the federal government are making funds available for dealing with the affordable housing, then we certainly need to be taking advantage of that and making sure we have people in place to advocate for those dollars in Augusta and bring them home to Bangor. Thank you.
Thank you. Kimberly Boucher.
Sure. So thank you so much for having this forum. So first of all, there's a lot of really great things that are happening to address this, but like Mike mentioned, housing accessibility and affordability is very much at the center of this challenge. And I would want to work with our local legislators to make sure that a lot of this funding that's been set aside for housing, for affordable housing and the Housing First model comes to Bangor to help us with this challenge. But solving this challenge isn't as simple as connecting people with their families as some might think. Many people are ending up homeless because of due to the catastrophic loss of their family. And so Bangor really needs to look towards the housing first model. What that means is that it is a model of housing where supportive wraparound, supportive wraparound services are included right on site in the area. So this is something that Penquist is actually doing. They're renovating 41 units into housing with these supportive wraparound services. We can't solve this crisis if we're continuing to demand that folks are pulling themselves up by their broken bootstraps when they may not even have boots at all. We need to be working to co-locate a lot of the supportive resources and reduce a lot of the barriers that people are facing. The city has Shelter Plus Care program, which is funded through a HUD grant, and they also have a landlord liaison program to reduces the risk that local landlords take on when they are renting to recently unhoused people. This is wonderful. We can't set people up for success if they still have to figure out and navigate complicated systems. The Bangor Community Action Team is working really hard, but they need more support to be able to do more of this heavy and disheartening work. They need to pay their staff well, and all of.
Thank you. Susan Dean.
Well, thank you, Corinna, and thank you to the association that is sponsoring this today. I appreciate the time that you've taken to reach out to us. Appreciate all the other candidates here that have also taken their time. To talk about the council and what they've done many wonderful things, but there are still things that need to be done. I've spoken with city officials and mental health workers, and they all seem to be in agreement that Bangor has reached their limit as to the number of homeless that we can support. We need to deal with the homeless population that we have here now, and we also need to start bringing in some other community help. A lot of communities are sending their homeless to Bangor in hopes that we can help them here, but unfortunately we do have limited funding. I do believe that there is state and federal funding that could be available that we need to tap into. Bangor cannot do this alone. This is a nationwide problem. It's a statewide problem. When we deinstitutionalized the mental health system in the 80s, we didn't have the support system in place to deal with all these people. And now we are seeing where it has taken us. I believe we need a facility for these people where they can be safe, they can be warm, especially given the winter months coming. But the problem is no one seems to want to have that place near their business or near their home. So what can we do? There are many empty buildings in Bangor. I'm sure we could tap into something, but we also need to help them. Giving them a place to live without supporting them, without giving them substance abuse counseling or mental health services is not going to help them at all.
Thank you. Carolyn Fish. Oh, I'm sorry, you're muted.
There we go. Could you repeat the question, please? I changed offices and I had a hard time getting in and just missed the beginning of this.
Absolutely. Can you reset the time, Marcia? What would you do differently, if anything, to address the housing crisis, including homelessness, than the approach the current council and administration have taken?
Thank you. Thank you for giving us this opportunity, and thank you for the other candidates for participating as well. I've got no experience with the council. I've watched a lot of the council meetings that are available on Zoom, and I am familiar with some of the people that are involved with community health and services, and as well as being involved in real estate. I understand the issues that people are having with keeping the house that they're in, the elderly that are on fixed income, a lot of the families that are addressing childcare and many other things, they're on the brink. They're falling behind on their mortgage payments. And so it's not only with the homeless we have, but also a concern to keep the people that are in housing still to be able to stay safely in their homes. What the council is doing now, I think they've tried hard. This problem has exploded in the last 2 or 3 to 5 years. I think it's hard to have a handle on it, and I don't think they do have a handle on it, as many other communities as well. But what I would like to do, I have reached out also to a lot of people that are in community health and services, provide housing. I understand what some grants are available that Bangor doesn't participate in now. They have made application for some of these grants, but for some reason, I don't understand why they're not getting some of this money. Maine State Housing and Penquist Cap has programs that they're putting in place. But I think that there's somewhere there's things falling between the cracks as far as assessment of those that are in Bangor that are Bangor, have Bangor connections, and those that are coming in because they're shipped here as a place where communities are sending their problems. So just to finish up, I think we need to really assess to take care of Bangor's own first. Then when we get a handle on that, maybe look at other resources we can provide for other people coming in.
Philip Henry.
Unmute. All right,
Yes.
We're good. Unmute. So thanks everyone for giving us some time here to share our perspectives on this. But yeah, this is a very complicated issue in terms of homelessness. But what I'd start with is better defining the problem. I think instead of blanketing homeless as one problem, there's addiction, there's mental health, there's other individuals that just need life skills, and then there's an income thing. So employment and income. And I think number one, we have to look at some of the subsidized programs that exist and why landlords are not accepting people in those programs, because there's higher risk that lands in the landlord's lap. So the cost associated with allowing some of these subsidized programs to come in is left with the landlord, and those people don't have life skills, they don't have accountability, they need assistance in those places, and that's what we need to develop. We need some accountability there. The next thing is we need to provide incentives for people that are trying to work. So babysitting assistance. We need, if a single mother is looking to work and can't make ends meet and can't pay the rent, we need to help them, provide incentives for them to be able to do that, versus making it easier for that individual to stay home because it's easier to get some of those programs. Instead, we need to modify those so that they can they work in favor of these people. We also don't want to combine some of the resources geographically of supporting the addicted and the mental health in amongst the business community, because now neither of these buckets are being satisfied. Neither of their goals are being met. So I think we need to address geographically where these resources are located. So that's what I would do. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Harold Hal Wheeler.
You're muted, Hal.
Should be on your lower left.
Okay, I got it. I got it. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Marcia,
right.
Can you reset the clock?
Okay, well, this won't take long. I hear all this talk about we need to do this, we should do that, we ought to do thus and so. My question is, since when did it become the prime responsibility of a city council to provide for affordable housing and shelter for the homeless? These are important problems, but the job of the city council is to oversee the government of the city of Bangor and to be sure that everyone, property owner, business owner, student, everyone who lives in Bangor gets an even break and a fair shake. How do we do that? Well, in the first place, it can't be done. All these wonderful ideas sound so good, but it's all talk. It's not action. And the city council and the city administration has let this homeless situation go on forever and a day. And now, at the worst possible time of year, they've decided to do a little something about it. I'm sorry, I don't buy this. What about Bangor Mental Health Institute? Lots of rooms up there. Why isn't somebody looking into that as a possible place of shelter for the homeless people, if they want it? And that's another big question. Do they want it? I believe strongly in taking affirmative action where affirmative action is both wanted and needed. So don't look to me for answers. I haven't got one.
Thank you. Question 2. What measures would you take to streamline the permit and approval process, eliminate unnecessary and costly time delays for the development of housing in which all families and individuals can afford, as well as commercial development that supports business and economic stability? And we will start with Carolyn Fish.
Well, what experience that I've had so far with my family and myself having commercial buildings and getting permits, I've really found it not to be a problem. I'm sure it is, so the question wouldn't exist, but I've worked with police and code, and they've come in within a reasonable time. Right now, we're doing a renovation project here in town. And I think it was only a couple of days before we got the permits to be able to go in. I think that the permit issues may be on bigger projects that involve, a lot more development, maybe over time, a bigger footprint of commercial properties, maybe that include other types of businesses within that footprint. So that could be an expanded procedure depending upon the type of business going in. So I guess we'd look at it, see what the issues are. And if there is a better streamline, sometimes too many chiefs, not enough Indians can really create more time and problem than necessary. So I guess I would have to see what the complaints are and see what the timetable is on those. But so far, I've really not seen that to be a huge issue, at least in the line of work that I've been in.
Thank you. Harold Hal Wheeler.
Hi, I don't know how anyone can say they don't know what the complaints are. It's patently obvious that many businesses, particularly small businesses, are heavily burdened by extreme restrictions on what they can do to expand or redevelop. They're heavily burdened by increasing fees on a year-to-year basis. The thing that needs to be done, and I seriously doubt if the next council or any council is going to take the time to do it, is to conduct a total review, top to bottom, of the functions of every department in the city, beginning with code enforcement and then moving to economic development. Why is our economic development director also serving as the planning officer? That makes no sense. One of those jobs has got to suffer. And my feeling is that it's economic development because the planning officer has a pretty full plate on a weekly basis. Now, if we're going to find answers, we've got to look into the body itself. We've got to find out what's going on, why it's going on. And of course, we have plenty of citizen comments and complaints to start with. But right up front, conduct an in-depth and thorough review of what the policies are of every city department, excluding none. Are we willing to do that? I doubt it. Takes
Thank
time.
you. Kimberly Boucher.
Thank you. Hold on. Now I've just lost my notes here. So yes, we all know that the permitting process can truly slow down process and drive up housing costs. And since Bangor needs to add about 300 units of housing each year over the next 5 years, we have really no time or money to waste. We need to streamline processes, and particularly for certain kinds of housing developments that are going to serve the greatest number of individuals. Perhaps there's ways to work with preferred contractors who already have a good track record with the city to help move proposals forward faster. This is for both market and below market rate, but particularly for larger projects. This is also a place where technology can truly lend a hand, and we could allow for permit applications to be submitted digitally, and for the reviewing and approval process to be handled from a central portal. And we want that process to be as short as possible to allow work to begin or to continue again as quickly as possible. The costs associated with the permitting process should really be drastically reduced or even eliminated in some cases, particularly over the next 5 to 10 years when investment in housing is really so vital to this area. We also need to increase the number of staff in the code enforcement office so that they can really start to move projects through the pipeline faster, particularly as we're asking them to do more with less, like create a rental registry for short-term and long-term housing. I'd also like to have more transparency from the city about the permitting process to help people walk through the process, know what they need to come in with. And along Hal's line of thought, I want to work with code enforcement to determine if there are any existing codes that the council could work towards to amend or suspend for a period of time to encourage more building. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Beck.
Thank you. My answer is relatively short. If we've got organizations, developers who are trying to move the city forward and they are having issues with our permitting process, I would hope that we can build the culture within City Hall and within City Council that they could come forward and bring us those compelling cases. Because if we're inhibiting progress for no good reason, then certainly we need to revisit how to streamline the process. But again, I need to hear these cases and be partners with these groups to know what can we do specifically that would help them with their project, especially when they're trying to bring more housing and commercial projects to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Philip Henry.
All right, so I put a couple little notes here on things that we could do, but one of the things that I think Carolyn mentioned that I haven't had any real challenges getting permitting for some of the stuff that I've been working on. However, obviously, if there's capacity requirements, then we have to staff up at the city. Some of the things that come to mind are tax incentives for developers to come. If we have different pockets of real estate development, like elderly housing, low cost first-time home buyer housing, subsidized housing, and so forth. These are different pockets, and the city knows what we need. We have to incentivize developers to develop that, and we have to consider tax incentives, zoning modifications. I think ADUs, so additional dwelling units on existing constructions, and making it easy for people to get those permits so that they can add an additional dwelling unit to an already built structure. That it can help with the housing supply, and then pockets of funds for that we can use for feed studies for big developments that sometimes make the math unattractive for developers to come in. And then I look at Emily Ellis, who's got a 60-unit development, and I wonder, here's a person that's brave, investing a lot of capital into adding units in our region, but yet it's been put on hold. We have, she called me the other day, and it's like there's workers, hundreds of people that are waiting to break ground and to do additional work, but yet some sort of bureaucratic process and hold has been put on this project because of some zoning requirements. And that's an example of why we're not attracting investors and developers. So we need to make that much easier.
Thank you. Susan Dean.
I have to admit, I am not extremely familiar with the permitting process as I'm not a realtor or developer, but I have done my own home renovations. My father-in-law also renovated homes, so I'm familiar with it on a small scale. I did speak with a commercial builder last week who told me that code enforcement has been very easy to work with. He has not had a lot of trouble obtaining permits. And some other realtors have told me the same thing. However, it appears that there is an issue. Phil just mentioned Emily Ellis's concern. The new build for affordable housing is currently in the process, but the permits have been delayed due to some zoning. This hopefully will be rectified soon. One thing that I've always questioned is the amount of time that a home remains empty. In my neighborhood alone, I've seen many of these beautiful large homes that have sat for years and years with no one to fix them up. I'm not sure if we can have anything to do with the current foreclosure, but I think that the time that they spend empty is detrimental to not only the homeowners that are living in the community, but also to those that could possibly be purchasing these homes, renovating them, selling them, or renovating to live in some sort of affordable housing. I'm a big believer in renovation over demolition. Whenever we can take one of our beautiful old historic buildings and turn it into something that we could all enjoy, I am in favor for.
Thank you. On to our third question. Do you think our Main Street, downtown, and mall district is healthy and successful? If not, what would you do differently? And we will begin with Hal Wheeler.
Quite obviously, no. Now, it depends on how you measure success. You want places to eat and drink? Yeah, we're successful. You want to get a tattoo? Yeah, we're successful. You want to patronize the head shop? Yeah, we're successful. Where is the retail? Even the mall has lost most of its major retail. No, it's not successful. And I honestly don't know if it ever will be again. The whole concept of shopping has changed. It's mostly online now. You can't even buy a men's pair of shoes downtown. You can't buy a lady's dress downtown unless you want something that's kind of a costume. No, the retail center that once was downtown Bangor no longer exists. And I don't think there's anything we're going to be able to do about that unless and until some enterprising entrepreneurs are willing to make the investment to establish some of the traditional retail shops that we used to have. When I was on the council, I had a complaint from some downtown merchants that the 60-minute parking limit was discouraging to shoppers because they just begin to browse and say, well, I've got to leave because my meter is going to expire or my time is going to expire. What did I do? I introduced an order to change the downtown shopping limit, parking limit rather, from 60 minutes to 90 minutes. Did anybody thank me? No, but I don't care about that. It got done. And that's really at the bottom of my campaign. Get things done. Don't talk about it. Don't hold meetings. Get things done.
Thank you. Philip Henry.
All right. So the downtown, I think the downtown has come a long way. I think we have some of the most foundational pieces of that, which is we have waterfront concerts, we have restaurants, and we need more brave entrepreneurs to come in, restaurateurs, and the way to do that is by perhaps relocating or provide some ordinances so that outside of the hardworking entrepreneur's business, there isn't a shopping cart filled with goods and supplies that people are allowed to just freely come or hang out or loiter. And where I'm from in Canada, or there'd be no skateboarding, no loitering, there's no panhandling on every street corner in the downtown. So when we're trying to attract staff at the hospital, or we're trying to bring businesses into the downtown, it's challenging because that is the visual and that they see, and that translates to lost revenue when you have to consider whether or not you're going to go into a location based on whether or not you feel comfortable going through that environment. So that's that. And then in terms of the mall, we used to come down from Canada and shop every year. And I think there's a missing link between promoting that mall area to our Canadian partners north and some of the other larger regions north of Maine. So I think outlet malls, we just have to change the way and the feel, because to someone's earlier point, Amazon and some of the online shopping has impacted our ability to do that. But there is still demand. If you go down to Boston and you go to an outlet mall, you can't find a parking spot. So we need to start to modify how we fill that space.
Thank you. Fish.
Can you hear me? I seem to be having problems at the office today. I think everybody here is online. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think everyone else has addressed the problem. The world today is just not big box retail. It's mostly online. I think when we go to Boston or New York, we see the smaller boutique specialty shops doing quite well. That's probably what we're going to have to see. Entrepreneurs, the people that are younger now and are going in and using smaller boutique type of shops. We probably have to look in and probably try to attract more of that downtown. The mall, I don't know. I think the mall might be a great place for a lot of housing. I mean, it's a huge complex. There's a lot of land there. I know it's privately owned, but what an incredible source for a lot of housing, either for elderly, affordable housing. I know that's sort of a dream, but every time I go over there, I just think of what a multifaceted project could do over there, maybe with some retail as well, but maybe also to be able to provide some housing. So those are, I don't know, I think it's just the way the world has changed that I do believe Main Street and downtown is successful. It's better than it was a couple of decades ago. We've bought a lot more activity down there, but it still could use some help.
Thank you. Susan Dean.
Thank you. This is an issue that I'm actually quite passionate about. Our downtown is what brings people into Bangor. The mall area is what keeps people here. If we don't have a vital downtown, we really don't have anything to offer tourists or people from other communities. With what's going on with the malls, we expect that closures will happen in large facilities like that. The unfortunate thing is that these larger facilities didn't move into the downtown area, and we didn't invite entrepreneurship downtown to open up smaller retail stores that should, in this economy, do very well. Everyone now is very into buying local. I am sure that if we were able to get more retail downtown, it would do well. I mean, we no longer have a shoe store. We no longer have clothing stores. We have restaurants, bars, coffee shops. We have an antique store. We have Rebecca's, which has been a staple in the downtown area, but we don't have a place to go and do our one-stop shopping. The mall area itself is doing fantastic. There are plenty of stores out there. These are the kind of stores that we have to go to on a daily basis. But the downtown could be so much more. And I really believe that with a little bit more ingenuity and some revitalization, we could bring our downtown back. We could have a downtown that we are all so proud of. And revitalization means filling our storefront. It means making it beautiful. It means decorating our Christmas tree. It means bringing people in for outdoor concerts, outdoor eateries. All this will bring people to our downtown.
Thank you. Kimberly Boucher.
So I mean, I do feel that our downtown is thriving. There's a lot of really wonderful things happening. There are new businesses that are trying out different models. And and there's also, there's very few of the storefronts that are remaining empty for a long periods of time. Like there can be turnover. And that's kind of normal when you're talking about restaurants and businesses. Sometimes they aren't able to thrive, but we have people that come right back in and try something new. And I think that's really good. But in order for any of our retail areas to thrive, we need to have the type of population that can support that retail. So I think moving towards more mixed use development, both downtown and potentially using that mall area as a place that also can house people and bring people in to that market is going to work out really well and in our favor. And like everyone else has said, things are changing. Large retail is not really where things are. People have moved a lot of things online, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a need for interesting shops. And I think that Bangor does that really well. They're bringing together sort of cute little boutiques and cute little shops where people can poke their heads in and spend some time downtown and also go and have lunch in a different little location. But I think one of the biggest things that Bangor needs in general is better marketing about, the appeal of Bangor, what it brings, the life and the excitement that is there in Bangor, and also highlighting some of the great development that's happening, like on Central Street, where there's going to be a whole new area for housing and for retail. Let's get that story out there. Let's tell a better story about Bangor. Thanks.
Thank you. Michael Beck.
It's a great question, and I think it also highlights, the fact that council has 9 individual members who all have their own ideas, and from what we've heard, I mean, you can assemble a pretty good plan out of all of this, and I, want to look at it from a different angle as well. There's some things we can do to make Bangor more of a destination. I feel like what Bangor is missing is just some kind of real draw. For example, I'm originally from Michigan, so 10 years ago, I'm living in Michigan. And we have a city there called Holly, who every winter they have something called the Dickinson Festival. And it's a big event. Here's a city that has a third of the population of Bangor, and the place is just packed. And you've got people, wandering through the streets doing performances of, a Christmas Carol. So we could have, the Penobscot County, the Penobscot County Theater doing these kind of performances. But they've got different, carts set up to selling, roasted chestnuts and kettle corn. And you just almost feel like you're transported back, 200 years and just really capturing that holiday spirit. And people come from all over the Midwest to go there. We can do something phenomenal here every year and draw more people throughout through New England to come here and spend money and see what Bangor is about. But business owners need a little help first with addressing, we have a lot of folks who are coming downtown who have unmet needs. They're not there to purposely cause trouble, but it's disruptive. And one of the proposals that the Downtown Bangor Partnership put forward was Street Plus. They put an application for it for ARPA funds for a period of 3 years for supplemental sanitation, as well as some supplemental outreach, to give business owners a hand with addressing some of the issues, because they should be focusing on their business, not doing social work. So we can't have one without, addressing the other.
Thank you. This brings us to our 4th question. Do you support rent control measures, including but not limited to mandated inspections, fees, and registry? And we will begin with Susan Dean. Sorry.
Who did
As
you
far
call?
as rent control in a small city like Bangor, I'm not sure if that is something that would be feasible. I know in the larger cities with multiple units, it certainly is something that has been used for years. New York City, Boston, certainly they need rent control because otherwise people would no longer be able to live in the city. The amount that people are spending now on a single bedroom apartment seems to be exorbitant. But I also understand that there are many costs associated with owning the building, with taxes, with upkeep. I think perhaps a better system to ensure that these fees no longer go up, but I don't know that an exact rent control policy would be the way to do it. I think a humanitarian approach to it would be better. I think that we do need more affordable housing. I don't think anyone can disagree that it's very difficult, especially for young people, to rent or own. So I would definitely need to look into this particular question because I don't think there is an answer one way or the other right now.
Thank you. Carolyn Fish.
I would not be in favor of rent control. And the registry, from what I've heard is proposed, I'm not in favor of the way it exists. However, I think some type of control or monitoring or inspection for rentals and apartments for the safety and liability, of all is a good idea. But we can't control electricity going up, fuel going up, the cost of maintenance going up. And I think we're just going to discourage developers and continued housing projects. And if we want to, it's kind of an norm. If we want to have developers come in and encourage more housing, yet at the same time, we're telling them, however, we're going to cap it. The world doesn't cap their fees. Fuel's not capped. Electricity is not capped. The price of material is not capped. So the investors, I know, for instance, in Portland, I have colleagues there that, through the Realtor Group, and a lot of big investors stopped projects and are looking to go elsewhere because they just did not feel that that was something, that they wanted to risk their dollars and their time. They went elsewhere and they're going elsewhere. So no, I'm not in favor of that.
Thank you. Hal Wheeler.
No.
Thank you. Philip Henry.
Yeah, I'm a hard no on the rent control for a lot of reasons. I think especially because the demand right now for more housing here is critical, it's urgent. And so to have a developer have more and more regulation around their investment is certainly not going to attract additional investment and additional development. And even I think about this rental registry around short-term rentals and rental registries. Now there's more fees, more fees. And I did some quick math, and at a cap rate of 10%, just the decision for that short-term rental regulation and inspection and fee-based thing has sucked $500,000 of equity out of the market because investors acquire properties based on their cash flow, their income. And so when you just take $250 of cash out of an investment, I think these are just short-term decisions being made without understanding the long-term implications and the fact that they're driving investment dollars away from our community when that's what we need the most. So yeah, it's a hard no. It's like, and I think Carolyn mentioned it well. I mean, the cost of fuel is not fixed. The electricity cost is not fixed by these people, and so the bank doesn't give you an option to pay the mortgage every month. So these are things that should be considered when making these decisions. So yeah, I'm definitely a hard no on the rent control. We need more supply and more development to come into our region. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Beck.
Thank you. Well, I'll start by this. Rent control doesn't create a single unit of housing. I think we all can agree on that. But I would say this, might surprise everybody here that Bangor had rent control back when we were a civil defense territory, so back in the 50s. Not only did we have rent control, when it was set to expire, it was Bangor City Council who went to the Penobscot County Rental Registry Board and asked for an extension on it. So at that time, rent control saved us. It also may surprise everyone here that we've been talking about affordable housing in Bangor through our annual reports since 1944. And in 1946, we came up with a novel idea that the private industry is going to fix it. And this is not a job for city council. And just take a look around and see how the last 80 years has worked out. Look, I understand the idea that, well, if we do rent control, there's going to be less investment. And there's a little investment now, and there's some things we can do. But the question remains, I mean, if we don't have rent control now, where is the investment? So people are hurting. I'm hearing from all kinds of people in Bangor who, are just underwater. Their question comes up about, well, what does affordable housing even mean? Well, affordable housing is 30% of your income. And I understand landlords are not charities, and I don't want them to be. And I really would rather not have it be an issue of rent control. But time and time again, we're not hearing people raise their rates because of gas prices or utilities or property tax. They're raising prices because, oh, market rate. Well, I got to raise your rent to match market rate. So that's distressing to tenants. So I'm not saying no to rent control. I'm not saying it's the first option either. I need to hear all the arguments.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of this valuable forum, and it's time for the closing statements, but I believe we didn't have the opening statement, so I'm going to give each person 3 minutes. Marcia, I hope you're able to add 3 minutes there to each person to give both your open and closing all together as once. We were just so excited to get to the questions. And we will start with Michael Beck.
Well, thanks again for the opportunity. I tried to squeeze some of my intro in my first answer there. I am a resident of Bangor, been here for almost 9 years. My wife and I have 3 young kids here in Bangor schools. When I'm not campaigning for council, I own a business called Bangor Solutions, which is a website design and hosting company. So I'm running because there's a lot of things we could do better in Bangor. I'm no stranger to going to public comment at city council. What drew me to getting more involved in issues around here is the ARPA money. We had once in a lifetime funding drop in our laps, and we were wholly unprepared for it in the face of a lot of issues. And it's one of those rabbit holes when you start digging into it and seeing things that are happening in the city, you could see where we're doing better. Staffing, for example, we're allowing this tremendous talent drain to other communities, especially, in our fire department, where we're just not matching what other communities are doing, and we're losing talent, which that affects public safety. Without our first responders, we have no public safety, which is why, I support funding the ARPA application they put in for premium pay. I would also say that we have just an issue with staffing in general. One of the examples given earlier was about Ann Krieg wearing 2 hats. Really, she wears 3. So she got promoted to economic development, which is an important position, and she's great for it. But she's also having to keep on her planning hat until they find someone. And they've also tasked her with finding someone. So that's a recipe for burnout. And we can't afford to lose someone like Ann Krieg, who works so hard for the city, knows so much about zoning and Bangor itself, that we got to work harder and come up with a plan to get more of these vacant positions throughout the city filled, so we can stop using short staff as an excuse for why things aren't getting done, because this is affecting services for residents as well. We have 14 snowplow drivers who quit that we haven't replaced yet, and that's going to cause us some issues this winter. So those are the kind of things I watch and I show up and I speak about, and I don't just complain. I give solutions and try to through email and everything else to say, hey, this is the other things we can do. So that's something I'm going to bring to council. That I watch. I'm concerned. I share details, and I'm willing to find compromise. Bottom line is like Hal said, it's about action. But we do have to talk about the issues. We do have to come up with a plan. And then we do have to take that action. So that's what my campaign's about. And I'm asking for everyone's vote on November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Kimberly Boucher.
Okay. Again, I have to find my thing. Sorry. So again, I want to thank the Greater Bangor Association of Realtors for this forum. And again, my name is Kim Boucher. I would be so grateful for your vote on or before November 7th, because I think whether you've lived here or sold properties or owned properties in Bangor for decades, or if you're really a fairly recent arrival, we all put down roots here in Bangor because it feels like home. And I want Bangor to be a place that feels like home for all of us. And I want it to be a place that feels like home for my 3 kids, and that they will want to stay here and continue to make Bangor an even better place. And I work every day to raise money for public health issues like mental health access, substance use disorder treatment and prevention, as well as to expand healthcare access for some of our most vulnerable neighbors. And I also have a unique perspective. So I'm a local landlord, and I am making a conscious effort to both properly maintain my properties, but also to keep rents affordable for tenants, because I think this is a humanitarian issue. This is, there are few businesses that are so impactful to an individual's quality of life as it is to be a landlord, and I take that role very seriously. And it's for that reason that I actually really do support a rental registry, because I think that there are bad actors out there who do not care for their properties and who allow tenants to live in unlivable conditions, because I've seen them. And I think that the city needs to have more tools in its toolbox to ensure that people can live here if they want to, and that they can have rents that are affordable. Because in order for Bangor to thrive, we need to be able to attract and retain the very best talent here. And that means making sure that people can live here in Bangor with spending a third or less of their income on just housing. Because if you want those businesses downtown or at the mall to thrive, people need money to be able to buy those things there, because often those are going to be higher prices than buying them online. To do that, they need to not spend all of their income on housing. Okay. It is not a either or situation. We can have a balance. And that's, I think, what I would bring to the council. Housing affordability and accessibility is really central to everything that I am bringing to the council. I want to be able to use my business skills from my MBA and my many years of providing service to nonprofits to lead Bangor City Council into a future where we can all thrive. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Susan Dean.
Well, thank you, Corinne. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and thank you to the Greater Bangor Association of Realtors. For those of you who don't know my background, I have lived in Bangor for almost 40 years, started my high school career at John Baptist. I also attended Hamden Academy and Colby College. I married a Bangor boy. I raised my son here in Bangor. He graduated from Bangor High and the University of Maine. He now lives in Windham. I am the practice manager at Northeast Oral Surgery here in Bangor. I also am a member of the Board of Appeals. My husband and I have always been very involved in the community. He coached Bangor Youth Football. He coached Bangor East Little League. I volunteered for Bangor East Little League. We both volunteered in the school system. These were the best days of our lives. We are now finding ourselves as empty nesters, and I would very much like to fill my downtime, which is not as quite as much as I would like, but my downtime, I feel, would be better utilized in community service. I've owned property in Bangor for 30 years, and I absolutely love the city that I call home. When I decided to run for city council, I was running for a chance to make a difference. My goals have not changed from the beginning. My bullet points that I started on a homemade flyer have not changed since I started running for this candidacy. I feel that I am a unifying factor that would bring this current council together. The citizens of Bangor need a council that can work together, and I feel that I am that person. I would be dedicated, and I would be honored to sit on the council with any of these candidates and any of the current members. My goal is to unite this council and the residents of Bangor and to make this the best Bangor possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Carolyn Fish.
My name is Carolyn Fish, obviously. I've been a realtor, and I want to thank the Greater Bangor Board and Corinna and Masha for helping put this together today, and the other council members for joining as well. I've been a long time in Bangor, started, as you've all heard, since my first job at 15. And I've gone to church here, baptized my kids here, gone buried my loved ones here, and had successes and failures. I've gone to the parks, and I've participated in concerts, and just lived. It's been a cornerstone in my entire life, Bangor has. And my husband's retired PD lieutenant detective from Bangor, where he served for 40 years. So through his eyes and living with him, I've seen that side and heard that side of how Bangor has changed. Some of the changes in Bangor for the better, certainly have, and some not so well. When I'm out there every day, and we're out a lot every day through the sales we do, my team does over 100 sales a year. That's a lot of families coming and going. So I hear the reasons why they're coming to Maine, especially the Greater Bangor area, and I hear why they're leaving. Every day people reach out to me and tell me their disappointment, and they're almost feeling to the point, they're feeling that too many services for our emergency response team, our first responders, police, fire, the medics, the hospitals, are consumed by, and it looks like I might be losing, I hope not, are being consumed by a small group. And yes, it's a vulnerable group of people, but still at some point we have to take, have a better assessment and better leverage of the services. Because when we have elderly that need to go to the hospital or they need an ambulance, and we've got, 45 calls for people that need methadone injections when there's only 7,000 calls, it just doesn't seem like there's a leverage. Somehow we're missing it. And I'd like to work with the other people that are the pros on that and see again how we can assess the problem and take action. I think that, the council, they've been divided. They don't come to decisions, and we need to unite. Even if we don't agree on an issue, we need to figure out where the middle ground is, where we can unite, come up with some good ideas and make progress. It's an unfortunate situation with the homeless. My heart goes out to it, but it's out of control. And it's just using the resources of it's hurting business, and it's using too many resources. And I think just continuously throwing services hasn't been the answer. It's getting worse, and we need to kind of work together. And I would enjoy working with anyone on the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Philip Henry.
Okay, wow. Thanks again for having us, Corinna. I appreciate it. The time spent to listen to all us talk about what we're going to attempt to do if we are nominated to sit on city council. But for me, I just again, I'm Canadian. I'm American now. I got my citizenship last year, and I've been in Bangor since 2006. 3 wonderful kids, one who decided to stay here in Bangor and after going to University of Maine. And so yeah, my wife and I love this town. It has so many amazing things about it, with waterfront concerts and some of the development going on downtown and the proximity to Acadia. So we have this like really, really unique model that we can build from. And I think the challenge right now is that, we see some of the people that have that really have roots here unable to just enjoy this community because of the fact that a small subset of the community is taking up all of the resources, and we really don't have a good solid plan in place to be able to address that. And so we have firefighters in the police department not being able to do firefight work. They're overwhelmed on a daily basis. It's hard to keep those staff. We have hospitals that have huge cost overruns because of the fact that a large number of the nursing staff and medical skilled medical staff are being brought in from away because we can't permanently retain these people because of lack of housing and, quite frankly, some of the other things that we've already talked about. The housing supply. I mean, as a real estate investor myself, I was in sales for a long time in engineering sales, but I built a business from scratch, so I have a track record of doing that. We don't have the luxury as entrepreneurs to just guess and spend money and then just hope that things are going to improve. We need metrics. We need to look at what we're trying to accomplish by spending this money or by going down a direction. If it's not getting us the results, if we're spending money on homelessness, but yet homelessness is increasing, then we need to redirect those funds and find a different model that might work. And then I look at, just as an example, I look at the model right now being, instead of teaching these people how to fish, we're just feeding fish. And there's only, and then so when the ARPA bucket is empty, in a year from now, when all of these people want more fish, we're going to be responsible as the tax-paying citizens of Bangor to either get that money. So how are we going to get the money? Well, we're going to have to increase the mill rate, and I just think there's other ways to bring economic development to our region. And so that's what I'm here to do. So yeah, thank you, and appreciate those who feel the same way. And hopefully you can vote for me on the 7th.
Thank you. Harold Hal Wheeler.
Thank you. I'm very impressed and pleased that in this year's election, there has been much more opportunity for the candidates to state their positions and introduce themselves to the community at large. I've not seen that before. I think we've had 4 candidate forums this year, or at least 4 were scheduled. 1 had to be canceled. So that's good. That is a sign of political maturity, I think, for the city of Bangor. This is not my first rodeo. I've served 2 separate terms on the city council, and I think this is my 8th campaign. I never intended it to be, but it turned out that it is. Once again, well, let me say that I owe everything that I have accomplished in life and all of my failures in life to the fact that I am a citizen of Bangor, Maine. I've lived here since 1946. I got my education here from the 3rd grade through Bangor High School and went on to the University of Maine, where, by the way, the instructors and professors didn't take very long to find out who the Bangor High School graduates were, because they came superbly equipped. We were so well prepared for college, in contrast, I think, to many other schools in the state. So I owe, as I said, everything that I've accomplished and all of the lessons I've learned from my failures to the fact that I have lived here in Bangor. It gets right down to the same issue. It's all well and good to hold up all kinds of goals and objectives, and they address various and sundry needs. When an army goes off to war, there are bands playing and flags flying and uniforms sparkling. But once you hit the battlefield, it's a different story. In many cases, it's every man for himself. And in that connection, it seems to me that candidates for city council should run on their own merits, not try to tag onto the coattails of some other candidates. I received a mailer this week containing the photographs of 3 of our candidates, and it indicated that these were the preferred candidates for the city council. Well, that's nice. I'd like to know who prefers them. There is such a rule as disclosure, and there was no disclosure on that mailer. My $400 campaign can't compare with Mr. Henry's $4,000 campaign. So let the chips fall where they may.
Thank you. Since you called out a candidate, Philip, did you want to respond? 30 seconds.
Well, yeah, no, I guess I'm not sure. I'm not aware, nor have I endorsed anything that's going on. But I will say that I've had very few people, and very grateful that some people have donated small amounts of money, but nowhere near the dollar amount that that Hal's referring to. And all of it is just signage. And I think a lot of people have way more signs than me. But hey, you live and you learn. But thanks, Hal, for assuming that I am that I have a well financially backed campaign, because I'm glad that that's the perception, because it's far from that. But thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the Greater Bangor Association of Realtors, I would like to extend our heartfelt appreciation to all of the candidates and the viewers for joining us in our first candidates forum. We've witnessed a robust and insightful discussion on the critical issues that impact our community. As we come to a close, I'd encourage each and every one of you to reflect on the issues discussed here today, stay informed, and continue that dialogue. It's vital that we remain engaged in the political process. And you may or may not know, but the Realtor Association, both in Bangor and state, we are very involved at the local, state, and federal level. We'd love to be a resource to you. Feel free to check out our newly adopted public policy statement on our website, greaterbangorrealtors.org. Remember that your vote is your voice, and it's essential to use that voice for this upcoming election on November 7th to shape our future of our community and our state. Thank you all so much, and have a wonderful afternoon.